Right, how is it for everyone? Sorry about the small kind delay in getting started. Time got out of hand for me, and yeah, suddenly it was almost 5 o'clock. And then suddenly it was 5 o'clock, and now it's 4 minutes after five. So I'm not 5 minutes late, but I am late to start. So if there was anybody hanging out wondering, where's everybody? Where's anybody? Who's going to show up? I finally got around to showing up. Thank you so much for hanging out if you were hanging out, and I'm so happy to see you. So, now that I've said my hellos for a quick minute and said, oops, yep, I'm actually here, let's do a real hello. Okay, looks like Kenny from the Cove is here today. Fantastic. Good to see you, Kenny. I've been talking about you the last couple times I've been on stream. What with you and donating the movies, let's see here, Elf and Monty Python Search for the Holy Grail, both of which we watched this week. Monty Python on Thanksgiving and Elf on Saturday's Statterbox at the Cinema, which as usual is every Saturday on Twitch at 6 p.m. West Coast time. But we're not doing Statterbox right now. We're doing Chatter with Statter, and that is 5 p.m. West Coast time every Sunday and every Wednesday. So I'm glad you're here today, and I hope to see you next Wednesday. Looks like Cindy Krause is in the house. Fantastic. Glad you guys are here to see what is going on. So, today I've got some random strange things to talk about until the chatter starts to scatter. But before I do that, I need to take a sip of water. There we go. Had to wet my whistle. Hey, Andre, good to see you. Okay, so now that we've got a couple people in the house, Andre definitely being one of the people that we want to talk to here. So, as per the usual, hey, Vanilla Coke Pepsi, good to see you swinging on in. So, as per the usual questionnaire that I'm putting out to all y'all, hey, book Chris Graves, good to see you today. All right, so I am. Hey, Vanilla Coke Pepsi. It doesn't matter that you're a little bit too late. Michael Bublé is a great person to listen to. I was a little bit late. I was actually 4 minutes late starting the stream. So you're actually pretty much on time. It's all good. You did not miss anything except for maybe some blank screen. So I think we're good. Yeah. So today I want to make sure. Today, before the stream, I went and did something that was. Well, I don't actually know what I did, but I basically screwed up everything that I had set up on my OBS. And so I kind of had to reconfigure. I had to like remove everything, reload everything, blah, blah, blah. Only part of the reason why I was a little bit late today. And so, but basically, though, I still need to verify with everybody. The little gear, is it there, and can you adjust the streams? Because I am still at 720. And so, yeah, I am still at 720 in theory, according to my settings. And so I'm just wondering, can you guys downgrade the quality? Is that still an option, or what? You know what I'm asking, basically. Have we lucked into getting those little gears that let us downgrade the last 3 times I've streamed, or is it still there? Hey, Wild Willie, good to see you. Fantastic for you swinging on in. Let's see here. So Andre, you're on the better internet and you got an error message. Rick is here, but got to be K because he got a phone call. And Michi Mama says that she just went down to 360 due to buffering, which says to me then that you can. So the gear is still there and still letting you downgrade. So cool. I guess that's okay. And Cindy, you've got all the choices on your phone coming in strong. Okay. All right. This is different than what the articles I've read and the tutorials that I've watched have indicated. I'm really beginning to suspect that that me having my settings at 720 is allowing you guys to do the downgrades. Whereas if I had it at the 1080, you guys never seemed to go or to be able to have that option. Kenny, I don't know what you, Kenny says that he's not seeing the gear. I don't know what device you're watching on. Every platform's a little bit different, but there's sometimes like you have to hover over the bottom right hand corner of the screen. I don't do rights and lefts well. I have to actually check for my L. But the bottom right hand corner of the stream or the screen, if you like hover on it or like maybe tap, a little gear should maybe show up in theory. And then if you tap the gear, it'll show you that I'm broadcasting at 720 source, but then you have the option to get lower grade quality if your internet requires it. Obviously, if you're coming through strong at if I'm coming through strong at 720, then you don't necessarily want to downgrade it. But if there's a lot of lagging and buffering, sometimes lowering that stream resolution, I don't actually know if that's what it's called, but sometimes lowering it helps. So yeah, that's the gear that I'm talking about. I don't even know, Kenny, if you need to worry about the gear. Michael Anthony Smith, so good to see you. I'm glad that you were able to crawl out of bed, or at least maybe get your phone while you're in bed, because I happen to know that Michael Anthony Smith has to wake up super early in the mornings, and his bedtime is super early in the night times. So I'm guessing he's in bed right now, still joining us though, and I'm super stoked to see you. So, okay, Andre, now you're good. You did some magic or whatever. So Vanilla Coke Pepsi, what are we going to do today? Well, that's a good question. What do you guys want to talk about? Because I've got a very, I don't know if it's a wacky story to tell you about the Pacific Northwest, but I've got some history that we could go over. So yeah, Michael Anthony Smith, I figured you were in bed. And you know what? Sometimes watching these shows from bed is the best place to be. Super cozy. You can still keep up with all the gangy. It's wonderful. Andre, 200 biddies. Thank you so much. Starting off the day right. Okay, so Kenny found it. It's the upper right hand on your cell phone screen. But you've always gotten your internet is good with this Twitch connection. Fantastic. Yeah, then don't bother with the gear if you're coming in loud and strong, or if I'm coming in now loud and strong. Andre, do I have any non-wacky stories? Well, this story actually is technically, I think, falls under the non-wacky paradigm. So I don't know if you guys have ever Vanilla Coke Pepsi, you made a list of random things you think about throughout the day, so you started keeping track. Well, welcome to my world, my friend. Basically, coming up with content sometimes is something that the back of your brain is always doing. So once you get some lists, maybe you can start your own stream there, young man, because if you've got wacky thoughts, you know we've got wacky talks. We do it here almost every single day. Well, not every day, but those 2 days a week. Yeah. Right. Yeah. If you're waiting for the waiter, aren't you the waiter? That is a very good question. That's like a mind blower, man. Vanilla Coke Pepsi. But anyway, so, your parents would never let you, but maybe in the future. Well, oh, that's right. Yeah, I suppose at, I think, what, are you 15, Vanilla Coke Pepsi? So yeah, you probably are a smidge on the young side for starting to stream. But hey, keep those thoughts going, and one day when you're a major instead of a minor, you'll be able to hop online and have hours upon hours of random topics to talk about. Speaking of random topics to talk about, so I don't know if Picola T is here today, but she knows of this particular person that I'm about to speak of. And this particular person that I'm about to speak of his name is Ivar Haglund. Now, Ivar, he is this gentleman right here. This is a super old picture. I can't remember exactly what year it was taken, but it was back like in the 1940s, I think, when he took that. This is the Ivar's Acres of Clams fish bar that is on the Seattle waterfront. That is what it used to look like in 1940. This is what it looks like today. And this is the kind of food that they serve. And this is the seating that you have when you're on the waterfront at Ivar's feeding the seagulls. You better feed the seagulls, let me tell you. And there is the man himself, Ivar, and sitting in his acres of clams. He was a Pacific Northwest Seattle icon for decades. He sponsored fireworks shows along the waterfront of Seattle every 4th of July. He looks he's got several different restaurants, all of varying I wouldn't say qualities, but some of them are much fancier than others. Like some of them are suit and tie type restaurants, and others are just literally walk up fish bars on the waterfront of Seattle. This was his very, very first restaurant, was the one on the waterfront in Seattle, right next to the ferry terminal. Currently, the ferry terminal and the Ivars next to it are in a huge remodel, which is why I don't have a current picture of what the place looks like right now. And besides that, this picture from the 1940s is just so flippin' awesome. How do you not show that picture, right? And it might be from the 1950s. Looking at one of those cars, the credit said it was from the 40s, but looking at one of those cars, I think that was a 1950s car, not a 40s car. Okay, cool, Vanilla Coke. We'll be back. We'll be here if you come back. So, anyway, why am I talking about this crazy old guy from Seattle? Hey, Darlene, good to see you. We are talking about Ivar Haglund, and Ivar Haglund is this entrepreneur from Seattle who started a chain of restaurants. This particular picture that we're looking at with the stack of pancakes and that gooey syrup, that was a photo that he took of him, or got taken of him, after a train car full of corn syrup crashed and tipped over in front of his fish bar on the waterfront. And it was corn syrup. And so he went to one of the restaurants down the street, got a stack of pancakes, got on some hip waders, and got the photo opportunity of pouring that thick, huge, scoopy, syrupy spoonful of corn syrup, that's the picture right there, onto that stack of pancakes. That picture hit the press and hit the wire, and it actually made its way around the world. It's one of the most famous pictures of Ivar Haglund. Now, why am I talking about Ivar Haglund? Well, Ivar Haglund, as you can tell, grew up to serve some pretty flippin' delicious deep fried seafood, and that clam chowder that's on that tray, that clam chowder can be found in Costco's across the country. It's supremely delicious clam chowder, and if you can handle dairy or clam chowder, I highly suggest you look into getting some Ivar's clam chowder. So, why am I talking about Ivar? I mean, why am I giving him all of this? Okay. Yes, Michael Anthony Smith, very smart guy. So, Pacola T, you are here. Excellent. Yes, I know that she knows all about Ivar's. Ivar's has, not only does Ivar's have the waterfront and then some fancy restaurants, he's got a chain of fast food restaurants across the Puget Sound. Tacoma has them. There's one in my town. There's one at SeaTac. In fact, whenever Anthony Bourdain came to Seattle, he always made sure to get a bread bowl full of the Ivar's clam chowder. Anthony Bourdain was a huge fan of the clam chowder. So it's famous clam chowder. And, oh wait, hold on. Let's see what Andre has to say. You do know that in Boston, they had a molasses tank rupture at the rum distillery and killed a bunch of people. Yeah, man, what a way to go. Death by molasses. Andre, not only do I know about that, check this out. You've heard of the term the Boston Massacre, right? Dude, like 4 times as many people were killed by that molasses tank rupturing than the Boston Massacre. The Boston Massacre only had, like, I think 7 people die or something. Like, tons of people died with that molasses tank rupture. Horses died. I mean, because it was a tidal wave of molasses that went through the town, and you were quite literally just stuck there, and drowned there, basically. No, Ivar did not leave me his restaurant chain, but okay. So Kenny from DeCove, clam chowder and a bread bowl, drooling over here. Right, exactly. And seriously, dude, Ivor, his clam chowder is supreme. He's got a really good salmon chowder as well. He makes a Manhattan style with the tomato. I don't like it because I don't like that style, but if you like that style, it's probably good because his food is really good. So, he's made his fortune. He made his fortune selling food. There's a little bit of irony there because his mom in 1908 was killed by a doctor who was treating her for an illness, and the doctor later they realized, was a serial killer. She was named Linda Hazzard, and she had a sanitarium in Kitsap County, which is just west. It's a peninsula just west of Seattle, in a little place called Olalla. Kenny from the Cove, I happen to know that you know somebody who lives near Olalla. So if you ever go visit your friend in Long Branch, my best guess is you're going to see a sign or multiple signs for Olalla. It's just south of Port Orchard. Anybody who has been on the Kitsap Peninsula probably has seen the word at least. So Linda Hazzard, she was a doctor who, she wasn't really a doctor, but she called herself a doctor. And in Olalla, she built a sanitarium called Wilderness Heights, and she treated people for a multitude of medical issues through starvation, through fasting. So Ivar Haglund's mom was very ill, and she sought help from this medical practitioner. And unfortunately, she ended up starving to death. She, along with 15 other people, were starved to death by Dr. Linda Hazzard. And let me see here. Yeah, here we go. This is the doctor that was treating Ivar's mother. And she was arrested not for the starvation of her patients. She was arrested in 1911, 3 years after Ivar's mom died. She was arrested in 1911 for manslaughter because she actually shot one of her patients who was trying to escape from the sanitarium. And this particular woman, she forged some details of the will. The doctor forged the details of this woman's will so she could inherit the money. And basically, she has, like I said, about 15 deaths attributed to her, only one of which was she ever charged with. She went to Walla Walla Prison, Washington State Penitentiary, for 2 years. And then she got released. She got pardoned by our governor at the time. Her and her husband moved to New Zealand for a couple years. New Zealand was like, you are a bunch of quacks. Get the flying fork out of our country. So she came back to Washington and opened up another sanitarium. Now this one is the second one. The first one burned down. But after she got arrested, the first one mysteriously burned down. This one, is the second one that she built when she came back. So she has a series of books, right? And one of the books that came out, I believe, I've got notes, so let me double check. Yeah, her first book came out in 1908, which is the same year that Ivar's mom died. Now, she has several books out. The last one, which we're looking at the cover of here right now, came out in 1927. Remember, this is a book that was published about 20 plus years after she was arrested in 1911 for killing people. For killing people. If you look up this woman in Wikipedia, she is classified as a serial killer. Now, why I'm going off on this is when you look at the book and you look at the chapters in it, it's extraordinarily disturbing. And let me go here. An example of the type of treatment that she would give her clients. I'm taking this directly from, and I apologize if I've got a lot of reflection. I'm on a Wikipedia page right now that's bright white. But this is an excerpt from Earl Edward Erdman's diary in 1910. He eventually died from his treatments at Wilderness Heights. But from February 1st is when his diary begins. Saw Dr. Hazzard on February 1st. Treatment started on this date. No breakfast. Mash soup for lunch. Mash soup for dinner. February 5th through 7th. 1 orange breakfast. Smash soup for lunch. Mash soup for dinner. February 8th. 1 orange breakfast. Mash soup dinner, mash soup or lunch, mash soup dinner. February 9th through 11th, 1 orange breakfast, strained soup for lunch, strained soup for dinner. February 13th, 2 orange breakfast, no dinner, no supper. February 14th, 1 cup of strained tomato broth at 6 p.m. February 15th, 1 hot cup strained tomato soup, morning and night. February 16th, 1 cup hot strained tomato soup, morning and night. He notes, I slept better last night, but my head is quite dizzy. My eyes are yellow streaked and red. I can't imagine why. So let's see here. February 17th, he got to eat 3 oranges. February 20th, got to eat the strained juice of 2 small oranges at 10 a.m. and 2 small oranges at 5 p.m. And February 21st, ate 1 cup of settled and strained tomato broth, backache today, just below ribs. Next day, 2 oranges were all he was given to eat, backache today on the right side, just below ribs. Slept a little last night, he says, ate 2 small oranges at 9 a.m., went after milk and felt very bad, ate 2 oranges at 6 p.m. February 24th, he's got a frontal headache, ate 2 oranges, little bit of soup, heart rate up to 95 beats per minute, and full of sweats. Needless to say, February 26th, he was taken to the hospital for a blood transfusion, but he died before they were able to do that. So this is literally what we're talking about here. Yeah, you can starve to death just eating fruit. You can starve to death a lot of things. So that's the diary that he left. He ended up dying. He's one of the many who died. And like I said, that book cover that I just had on the screen, that was from her 3rd book that was published in 1927. Now, I'm not going to do the math, but she was arrested in 1911 for killing people with her medical practice. And here she's got a book out in 1927. And you want to know what? You can still buy this book at Target. Let me say that for you one more time. You can still buy this book at places like Target and Walmart. You absolutely can still buy this book on Amazon. This book is a part of some very strange medical ideas that continue to carry on. This book, which basically is almost an identical, if you go by chapter, he basically takes right from Linda Hazzard's work. This book came out in 1963. And this book came out in 2012. 2012, people. 100 years after people were medically recognized as starving to death and dying literally because of these medical treatments, there are still doctors that are peddling books that advocate for this. And Andre, yes, now it's under the guise of the intermittent fasting, which is, Andre says, that's why now they're into just short fasting, like one day a week or two. True. But when you get into that intermittent fasting rabbit hole, it's pretty obvious that some people do it more than just one day a week. And so, well, Michael Anthony Smith, no, being a vegetarian has nothing to do with starving to death. I mean, if you eat beans and rice, you're going to be fine, you know? But if you eat 2 oranges and half a cup of tomato broth every day for a month, your body is going to start shutting down. It's going to start realizing it doesn't have enough anything to do anything. So, yeah, exactly. Andre, and if you know, when you're hungry, you can't sleep. Very true. And if you try to escape, she shoots you. Exactly. So, so, yeah. And you know, and Andre, exactly. Some people think that if you fast a lot, you'll live to be over 100. Now, I'm not. I'm the last person to be giving diet advice. Don't, you know, intermittent fasting probably does have some health benefits. I'm not arguing that. I just find it so amazing that when I was looking up this Linda Hazzard lady, and I downloaded a copy of her book because you can actually get it for free. I downloaded a copy of her book, so I got to see what some of it was, and then I was comparing it with what Amazon was showing me as excerpts from the uh excerpts from the other books that I posted, and I was stunned at how similar the claims were. I mean, seriously, you know, claims like it can cure cancer type thing. It it's and I think we all know that people are prone to medical magical thinking when it comes to scary viruses and illnesses. We're living through a pandemic that's living proof of that, right? You know? Um so this isn't it shouldn't be as shocking to me, I guess, as it is. I guess, you know, because I'm still seeing it with, you know, with other medical issues that we're, you know, we're doing stuff. We're doing stuff with worldwide these days. So yeah, I just thought that was a completely fascinating story, and I thought it was so ironic that this, you know, chubby, I mean, ironic, not really. Actually, if you think about it, it's exactly the way you would think it would be. This chubby fried food restaurateur that is known and beloved throughout the entire Pacific Northwest. I mean, really, Ivers is, he died, I think, in the late 80s, but people who grew up around here, it's still, Ivers is, there's always going to be a soft spot in your heart for Ivers. And plus he did so much for the community. But to have his mom die of starvation at this sanitarium that is literally was in my area, at least. And actually there was a book written about it. It's a book called Starvation Heights. I have not read the book, but if you're kind of intrigued about this whole situation that went down in Olalla, there is a book. It's called Starvation Heights. Cannot remember who the author is, but I can promise you, if you just Google Starvation Heights, it'll take you right to this. Smithsonian magazine has a bunch of is an article about this. I mean, this was actually kind of a big deal back in the day. And so Pocola T exactly shaking her head as she nibbles on her butter cookie. You and me both, sis. You and me both. Give me that butter cookie. Yep, exactly. It just, fasting like that. No, not gonna happen. Not gonna happen. So let me see what Kenny has to say about his true story. I fasted for 2 weeks straight in 1991, surviving only on Jolt Cola and No-Dos. Well, as Andre says, that sounds like a speed freak fast. Not gonna judge ya, but I've definitely known people who've fasted in similar ways. I may or may not be one of them. But yeah, Jolt Cola and No-Dos, for sure. But you know, actually with all the sugar that you get with Jolt Cola, chances are you probably would last longer on a month of Jolt Cola than you would have at a month of Linda Hazzard's tomato soup and orange juice, right? So let's see here. Yeah, and Andre, you're exactly right. All these weird ideas are way older than people think, and they always come back. And that's what I found fascinating was this recurrence of this. It seems like every 40 to 50 years is the wave of the starvation wave when it comes to the medical practitioners. Because, yeah, these books came out. These aren't the books on starving yourself aren't from the early 1900s. Like I said, one of them came out in 2012, for goodness sake. Um, and let's see. Andre, do you notice that those who have faced hunger early in life are really food focused? Yeah, that actually is a very documented fact. In fact, a couple of my friends who have hosted foster kids said that the most common thing amongst foster youth, almost across the board, is food insecurity, regardless of if there's drug abuse or what kind of neglect or this and anything. There always seems to be food insecurity in addition to whatever it is that got the child removed from the home. Consequently, when the foster kid comes to a house that has a pantry stocked full of food, they end up hoarding it. And so my friends who have had foster kids said that they find the strangest stashes of food in the strangest places, like 3 cold hot dogs under a living room couch cushion. Or, however the food hoarding happens, without a doubt, the foster kids that my friends have taken in have almost universally faced food insecurity, and consequently, when the food is there, they have the same strange behavior of this food hoarding. And it's not a strange behavior when you understand, right? Yeah. And Michael Anthony Smith. Okay, so the Starvation Heights, Wilderness Heights was the technical name. This wasn't in my town. This was actually a ferry ride across the water from my town. But yeah, the Pacific Northwest for sure has its share of, issues. I mean, remember, the Green River is just down the hill from my house. And I don't think I have to explain to you what the Green River means, right? I mean, do we all know what I mean when I'm talking about the Green River? I think we might. Yeah. Oh, hey, Patrick. Good to see you. Good to see you. Yeah, exactly. Jolt Cola. It's been forever since I've even thought of that. But there you go. And yeah, Andre, people who have faced non-voluntary hunger are definitely not that into fasting. Uh-huh. Uh-huh. Mm-hmm. Um, so let's see here. That self-imposed jolt fast was fueled by severe depression. That doesn't surprise me at all, actually. Nothing about that surprises me. That sounds like a very typical reaction to depression. Not wanting to eat, but having to eat something to get you through the day. Wanting to sleep all the time, but having to take something to get you through the day. Yeah, that's textbook, babe. Mm-hmm. And yeah, Andre, right. You've worked with kids that brought their backpacks full of all kinds of food and things like toothpaste, and they would always take the snack and put it in their backpacks for later. Absolutely. Yes, 100%. I knew of a little girl who wouldn't sleep without her shoes on in case we had to go. Let's not even unpack that. Um, so, and Cindy, okay, so yeah, you had foster kids that did that too, or stole food for their mom. Absolutely, yeah, exactly. It's right, yeah. It's either food hoarding or it's their own food distribution network. Exactly. Um, so, Patrick, you don't understand a disease like bulimia. Some people have next to no food and others eat a nourished meal and puke it up intentionally. True, but there's there's a lot of factors that have to do with that. And eating disorders can take many different forms. Bulimia, though, oddly enough, is a real popular form of eating disorder because this is coming from my own experiences within the eating disorder community. Um, I've had my I've had issues with eating disorders, and the bulimia is the easiest eating disorder to have because you get the fun of eating, but you don't necessarily have to worry about your weight. Anorexics are generally really uptight because they're very controlled. It's a different type of person that has bulimia. It is all very confusing, but once you get into the weird mind spiral of an eating disorder, bulimia actually has a lot of logic to it. But that's all I'm going to say about that. So, let's see here. Uh, yeah, Michi Mama, you see a lady walking down your street and she literally looks like she's a walking skeleton. Yeah, now some people, and that's the problem, is, some people are naturally thin and to the point that they almost look skeletal. And then some people actually literally have eating digestive issues that cause problems, right? But then there is that societal pressure for men and women to have that lean look. And now obviously the lean look for men is very different than the lean look for women. But as far as the modeling agencies are concerned, or the clothing, the couture manufacturers, they would much rather dress a skeleton than a woman with curves. The fabric drapes better. I mean, it is literally the dumbest reason, but it is, it just the fabric lays better. And Michael Anthony Smith, right? So you used to weigh 400, you cut back, now you're 245. That's fantastic. And honestly, someone who is able to carry a 400-pound frame, literally physically able to carry that much weight, I would be willing to bet that at 145, you would be dangerously underweight. So, that 245 is really, even though doctors and BMI ratios and things are probably telling you still you need to lose more, I feel like the triumph that you have is totally worth celebrating. And if you can maintain that, then you're winning, dude. You are winning. Because the maintenance is really, where, speaking as someone who's probably gained and lost more than 1,000 pounds in my entire life over the years, keeping it off is difficult. And so, if you are able to even remotely take that or, keep that off, you are the winner at that game, my friend. You maybe should write a book, because it sounds like you've got way more knowledge and experience on the topic than that scary Linda Hazzard, who literally was a hazard. Right, Andre, exactly. Sometimes bulimia comes with certain sports as well, like wrestling, to keep their weight class. Precisely. Yeah, and men and women have different reasons to fall into the eating disordered cycle of behaviors. But once you get in that cycle, it's very difficult to break out of it. And it's much like a drug addiction, as it is. So let's see. Kenny from Cove's telling Michael Anthony Smith, I used to weigh 350. I made some personal changes and now I'm 196. Congrats to you. Yep. The struggle. Precisely. Yeah. And Kenny from the Cove, like I said to Michael Anthony Smith, if you had a frame and you looked like you're I've seen a video of you, you look like you're kind of a tall guy. If you had a frame that could support 350, getting much lower than 196 is probably not where you want to be. I mean, perhaps you want to, I don't know what your muscle mass is and etc. But as far as like just weight, how much you weigh, 196, dude, that's good on you. Good on you. Let's see here. Yeah, well, and yeah, Patrick pats his Buddha belly, and Andre's just like, the Buddha didn't really have a belly, just ribs, which is true. The fat Buddha that we see is not really what the Buddha looked like, from my understanding. He did beg for his food. That is part of what he wasn't just some king sitting in a castle doing nothing, getting fed grapes and having palms, keep him cool or anything. He was a monk. He went begging for food. So there you go. And exactly, Pocolati, skinny does not always equal healthy. That is 100% true. Um, and Michi Mama, you are correct. That's exactly it. So, oh, hey, eMusic, I don't think I even saw you slide in. I definitely know I didn't say hello. Sorry that we're talking about this strangely morbid topic today, but I figured, after we all stuffed ourselves with Thanksgiving foods this weekend, that maybe it's time we all had a little bit of a starvation diet. Or maybe we don't have a starvation diet and we just talk about it instead. So that's what we're doing. We're just talking about a starvation diet. And Michi Mama, that is totally true. You can't, the folks that are oftentimes in that cycle of eating disordered behavior, they don't see how awful they look. They look in the mirror and they see fat. Yeah, it's called body dysmorphia. And there's a name for it. And it's true that it's a combination of two things. It's what they see is not real. They see the fat. But then they also, especially with folks with anorexia, who are deep in, there's this goal weight where like life will be beautiful when I am at whatever number they've decided. And so instead of fixating on what they're seeing in the mirror, it's the number on the scale, and be damned if every rib is bulging out and you can see my heart rate from my pulse, from my veins, just visually, because I'm so skinny. If they're not at that number, then they're still not thin enough. Yeah, it's just, like I said, it's a cycle. It's not just, it's not just one thing. And yeah, Andre, exactly. I've never been skinny. Exactly. I've never, yeah. Well, I mean, I have kind of been skinny, but like when you look at the number on the scale, it's like, well, how am I wearing a size small and I'm still 187 pounds, right? I mean, like, I don't know. My numbers have never been, shall we say, on the lower end of the scale. And and Michael Anthony Smith, you feel like you've had doctors tell me to lose weight, you tell them read my chart. Yeah, exactly. Well, oh, I don't even know if I want to get off. We're about to have a soapbox moment, I think, but doctors, for the most part, are not. Oh God, I have so much to say about this. Any doctor that tells you to lose weight, I think you can honestly, Michael Anthony Smith, you should definitely say, read my chart. Because doctors really aren't trained in, doctors have to be trained in so many things. Weight loss is only a part of their curriculum, and the weight loss paradigm that our current medical science has been working under is actually maybe erroneous, because they're really looking at it as a calorie in, calorie out. It's simply a matter of math. You take in this many calories, you burn more calories, you're gonna lose weight. And they're just now, well, 100 years ago, they were just then figuring out maybe that's not the case. And then that got ignored. And now 100 years later, they're just now realizing, gosh, maybe there's like things like hormones and other stuff, and it's like a complicated system that has a lot of variables and a lot of feedback loops that don't necessarily equate to in and out with weight loss. So really, the medical establishment has limited knowledge about weight loss. And I say this because I actually had a doctor, seriously, like for real, seriously, suggest to me, I don't know, this was maybe 3 years ago, suggest to me, well, have you tried using smaller dinner plates when you have your food? I wanted to go off on her and explain to her that if all she had to offer me was the same advice that a 1970s teen fashion magazine had to offer me about weight loss, that maybe she should shut her mouth. But instead, I just smiled and said, I'll try that. But, you know, the doctor legitimately was suggesting, as an option, because I probably had never thought of it, using smaller plates. Okay. Okay, doctor. You know, I first read that in Teen Vogue in like March of 1978. But hey, now that you're a doctor, it must work, right? Right. Whatever. And yeah, Kenny, exactly. In 2018, when your health got really bad, you got down to 159 and you looked like you looked like you were worse for the wear. Precisely. It's yes, that's not a good look. Hey Poppy Shaney, come on in. We're glad to see you here. We are talking about weight and all sorts of things. Let's see here. Vanilla Coke Pepsi, you zoned out. What are we talking about? Oh, we're talking about food, we're talking about eating, we're talking about starving, we're talking about getting skinny, we're talking about getting fat, we're talking about all sorts of things. Let's see here. Michi Mama says there were many Buddhas and the fat one was just another Buddha. You learned that at your mother-in-law's funeral. Interesting. I definitely am not sure I've learned that, but I do know that the Buddha, there's every different version of Buddhism has their own version of what the Buddha looks like. And here in the West, we are used to the chubby one. But in Thailand, dude, their Buddha is all svelte and skinny. Just how that works. And yeah, exactly, Andre. The Buddha was born a warrior. He was treated like a prince. And then he came to enlightenment under the Bodhisattva tree and then changed his life. Basically, you got it. That's the very short story, very short version of the story. Hey, Michael Anthony Smith, you're going to go to bed. Awesome. Well, hey, thanks so much for hanging out for so long. I didn't expect to see you, able to stay awake for so long. So thank you so much for hanging out. I'm sorry that the topic is a little bit morbid, but I just thought, after filling our bellies, we might talk about emptying, how sometimes bellies are empty too. So, oh, hey, Miles, good to see you, medium 7 up. We are, let's see here. Yeah, we are talking about, now we're talking about Buddha, but we were talking about eating disorders. We're talking about all sorts of strange things, strange medical practices that advocate for fasting and starvation. And, So let's see here. Andre, you still don't like your doctor because she just asked me to lose weight and never helped me with the problems I was having. Yeah, it's a common joke amongst people who people of size. You can walk into the doctor with a broken arm and the first thing out of their mouth is, well, have you thought about losing weight? And it's like, yeah, sure. Okay. Yeah. So Yep. So, oh, Darlene, you dropped 50 pounds and kept it off for 2 years. Phenomenal. Good for you. Like I've said, it's the keeping it off that is so hard. So I'm so proud of you. 50 pounds is significant. 50 pounds is not easy to keep off. And 2 years is a long time for that. So awesome, dude. I'm so happy for you, Darlene. That's so awesome. So let's see, Poppy Shaney. Yes. The FAA makes a huge deal at the body mass index, as does the military. It's so ridiculous. Poppy Shaney says they will deny a medical certificate based on BMI. Then that person has to see a medical specialist to get them their medical certificate. Right. And that's just silly because I'll tell you right now, according to the BMI, there's this guy that you guys might be familiar with. His name's, let's see. Well, I don't remember what his name is, but we know him as The Rock. Yeah, Dwayne Johnson. There we go. Dwayne Johnson, The Rock. Just, picture him for a minute. Just for a minute. Do you think he fits into the BMI? Do you think he'd get his medical certificate based solely on BMI? Heck no, he would not. No, he would not. And I'd be willing to bet that he's probably fitter than most pilots. No offense, Poppy Shaney. I'm not implying that pilots are not fit, but I'm talking about Dwayne The Rock Johnson here. And so I think, I think you know what I'm talking about. Yeah. And Michi Mama, it's a mental thing. You tried using a smaller plate, but I went for seconds because you still had the cravings for more. Right, the smaller plate only does so much. I mean, I do appreciate the logic of using a smaller plate because it is human instinct to want to fill up the plate, and then we are taught as a society, clean your plate. So the small plate issue is actually not a bad advice. What I found frustrating though was, really, doctor? This is the advice that you're going to give me, doctor? I could get this advice 40 years ago from a teen magazine. Like you're not helping. Right? Yeah, and so there you go. Let's see here. Andre says, Poppy Shaney, that's one of the reasons you've never taken a helicopter in Hawaii. When I heard they need weight to weigh you before you get on the helicopter. Yeah, they need to know your weight so they can properly distribute the weight. I actually did take a helicopter ride, but probably, Andre, my best guess is if you and me took a helicopter ride together, the helicopter would be like, yeah, you and her and the pilot, and that's all that's gonna fit. Because honestly, if you're tall or big, or God forbid both, I don't even know if you want to get in a helicopter. And I know that it's awesome to look out of, sort of. It's a little scary too. But it's so cramped and it's so hot and it's just, I don't know if you really want to get on a helicopter. Let's see here. Hey Patrick, say you're saying if you're still here, if you've got glitches, try to lower your resolution on the stream. So, yeah, there is no Andre, there is no BMI charts for Samoans. I don't know. I don't even want to think about what a Samoan mom might want to do to a doctor, if they try to whip out the BMI chart on their kid. Actually, shoot, my friend Dell, his daughter is a superstar athlete, or was back when she was in high school. She has since gone on to live her life, but she did soccer, she did roller derby, she did fast pitch softball. I can't remember the other thing that she did, but basically she was constantly in sports, constantly. And consequently, she was basically just one chunk of muscle. And doctors right and left would tell her that she needed to lose weight all the time. When in reality, if you actually did like a fat test, she was probably at like 15% body fat, which for a teenage girl is very low body fat. So the BMI, it's really stupid. It doesn't reflect anything. And Vanilla Coke Pepsi, have I heard Dwayne Johnson's new rap song? It's a banger song. I feel like I want to say I have, but I cannot place it, and I think I might have seen a YouTube teaser about it. No, off the top of my head, I can't remember what it sounds like, so I'm going to say no, I haven't, but it sounds like I need to Google that. So awesome. I'm going to do that later on. So let's see here. And yeah, Andre, exactly. If we had BMI charts for football, there wouldn't be much of a football game. Precisely. Exactly. Kenny from the Cove, I balanced my holiday eating habits by following the advice of my football coaches that when they gave me when I got injured, walk it off. Yeah, there you go. Walking is pretty much, there you go. So Andre, they would carry both of us on the external lift system. Yeah, exactly. And yeah, it is. Well, and okay, so Andre says it's amazing how fast some Samoan athletes are and how big they are as well. Exactly. I was reading an article about how Disney portrayed Maui, and how lots of people were offended by the portrayal of Maui in the cartoon because it made him look fat. And this Samoan dude wrote this long op-ed piece about how no, the strong men of the world, no matter where they're from, be it Samoa, be it Europe, be it whatever, there's a strong man body type, and it doesn't look like Sylvester Stallone did in Rocky. It doesn't look like Arnold Schwarzenegger did when he was bodybuilding. They're not cut. You don't see the six pack. There's usually a layer of fat over a broad torso, broad shoulders. When you look at the strongmen competition, the guys that can pull tractors with their teeth, none of them have abs that you can see. That's for show. Those are useless muscles. Those are show muscles. Those aren't muscles that actually do stuff. And so the Samoan guy who was writing this op-ed piece was saying that Maui's body type is absolutely perfect the way it is. It is the way Polynesians are big and strong, and they might look fat, but they are not overweight. They're overweight by BMI standards, but for their body frame and for their capabilities, they're not overweight. From a health perspective, they're not overweight. And it's a legit body type that the Western eye and our culture has refused to recognize as being potentially healthy, and yet we refuse to acknowledge this. Yet we still have football players, we still have rugby players, we still have plenty of modern day examples of someone who doesn't have negative percentage body fat, being strong, able, healthy, fast, disturbingly fast, extraordinarily strong. So it's just, it's very, I don't know. It's just very disheartening that it's just the size of a body that's judged as opposed to what that body can do. Because like we're saying, Samoan folk might not be tiny, but they're also not necessarily not able to run faster than a speeding bullet, because some of them can. Yes, Kenny from the Cove, powerlifters tend to be stronger and have more endurance than the bodybuilders. Precisely. And, right, exactly. And Andre, you're saying exactly what I was saying was, they may, the strongman contest, they might look fat, but they can also pull trucks they can pull the truck. Now Rick, okay, now see, all right, so Rick brings up a good point, which is BMI is a random data point for heart risk, but not the only one. And you're more worried about the A1C and glucose numbers for insulin resistance. Precisely. And that is a much more scientifically, that makes sense. There's a method to the madness for that. But the BMI, is so one-dimensional in as a health assessment tool that it ends up and honestly, it's not the BMI as the health assessment tool that's the problem. It's just a tool. It's how the tool is used and universally seen as the only tool that will be used to determine whether or not someone is too heavy or not. And it's like, well, there's a lot of factors that you need to take into consideration when determining that. And this set of data points is just but one. And then, yeah, Rick, the height to waist ratio is another risk factor for sure. And And then, as Medium 7up points out, can we stop applying weird European beauty standards to people's from around the world? Yeah, and then there's that. But the thing is even the weird European beauty standards are still really kind of arbitrary and unnatural. I mean, seriously, people. How many people naturally look like a bodybuilder? Like, remember, I don't know a whole lot of bodybuilders off the top of my head, so I'm gonna go with old man Arnold Schwarzenegger. Back in the day, he was Mr. Olympic Universe or Mr. whatever. He was a bodybuilder. Well, you don't get muscles like that by doing regular labored work that actually does stuff. You get muscles like that to create muscles like that for show off. Well, that's extraordinarily privileged, frankly. You've got all this time in the flippin' world to make your body unnaturally shaped and formed to this some strange standard that Europeans have decided is the ideal. So even European beauty standards are still, even when applied to Europeans, are still completely arbitrary and unnatural. So let's see, Andre, I'll take a white guy that fits his BMI chart. Okay, exactly. Andre says, I'll take a white guy that fits his BMI chart way over any Samoan man or woman running at me. Heck yeah, Andre, I hear that. And Michi Mama, exactly. Big, strong Hawaiians is different from obese Hawaiian. And Dr. Shintani has worked with Native Hawaiians to eat better with less fat. Yeah, and the article, the opinion piece that the Samoan guy was writing about the depiction of Maui, who, by the way, was Maui, the Disney character that... let me start over. The image that Disney used to create the character of Maui was based on a picture of Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson's grandpa. And his grandpa was stereotypical, wide-bodied Polynesian dude who looked, as strong as a stone, probably could pick up a rock as big as he was. So Maui was actually, depicted on a real person. And the Samoan guy who was writing the article specifically said, hey, he understands why Native Hawaiians are really sensitive about how they are portrayed in the media, and any kind of fat stereotype is not helpful to the world's perception of Polynesians. But he was just like, Maui's not fat. I mean, yeah, I get why people don't want us to be depicted as fat, but he's just like, I don't really think that the character of Maui was depicted as fat, was his argument. And in fact, the only argument that he had against the character depiction of Maui was just like, I don't really like his nose, though. I don't like how they made his nose look. So he did have a problem with Maui, but it had nothing to do with how fat he was or wasn't. It was his nose. And yeah, and Andre, you are correct. BMI is based on white people, not people of color, for certain. In fact, I dare say it really is based mostly on white men, but obviously they've made some adjustments for women. So Poppy Shaney, Rick, says to Rick, my worry about insulin resistance is why I try to stick to a keto and intermittent fasting. You dropped 14 pounds doing that in the last 6 months. Oh, fantastic. That's really good. And 14 pounds in 6 months is a pretty good rate to lose weight. It's not too fast, not too slow. Your body can kind of adjust to that. Speaking as someone who's gained and lost probably close to 1,000 pounds in my life, I happen to know this. So yeah, vanilla Coke Pepsi, beauty is objective in some parts. But a lot of current beauty standards are pretty subjective, for sure. Well, okay, Andre, you bring up another good point. Arnold used steroids and it messed up his kidneys. And honestly, a lot of professional bodybuilders use steroids. And if they don't use steroids, they use some kind of other semi-legal human growth hormone, this, that, and the other thing. And I know not all bodybuilders do. I understand that. I am not trying to broadly paint a community of people with that stereotype. That being said, I have had personal trainers. I have belonged to gyms, and there are signs everywhere that talk about if you hear people talking about this, if you see this activity, report it, blah, blah, blah. One of my personal trainers, her dad was majorly into the shooting up scene of all the hormones and all of this, some steroids, some blah, blah, blah. And it is absolutely an underground part of the bodybuilding community. And any bodybuilder who denies that is probably dabbling in it. So it is what it is. And as Andre said, it screws up your kidneys, screws up a lot of things, and it's unnatural. And it's unnatural. A body does not look like that without medical intervention, and yet still it's our body standard. A body standard that is causing lots of today's youth, men and women, young men and women alike, to have eating disorders, when in all actuality, the body you were given is just fine and dandy. Just because you don't have an 8-pack ab doesn't mean you're not fit and healthy. Oh, interesting. Poppy Shaney's dropping us some little celebrity goss. Arnold is only 5'8", and you've flown him before. That's why they usually shoot his movies from below him upward. Interesting. I've heard that Tom Cruise is like 5'4". And I do think actually a lot of Hollywood people are not nearly as tall as you think they are. Yeah. So, but that's just me being all snarky. Medium 7-Up. That's a fun fact about Moana's Maui. Oh yeah, totally. And in the opinion article that I read, the op-ed piece, they actually showed the picture, and it's honestly, I mean, I don't know. I guess maybe I got a thing for old guys, but I don't know, man. Rock's grandpa is way finer than Rock, in my opinion. But that's just me. Yeah. So, oh, whoa, wait, Andre, did I hear that people didn't want Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson to play King Kamehameha because he has black heritage as well as Polynesian? Interesting. No, I did not hear that. But, I can appreciate that logic to a degree. I guess my I have a lot of questions. One of my questions is, wasn't King Kamehameha like super tall? And isn't Rock super tall? And I'm asking this for silliness, but when it comes to casting someone, I mean, you can only shoot a 5'8" person upward so many times, right? Like, and I just like, okay, and then my next question is, okay, so what other Polynesian actor is on the scene that would be a good option for King Kamehameha? I know that Jason Momoa has some Polynesian in him, but I don't know how much, or if he's 100%, and I don't know how tall he is. I've got all sorts of questions, but no, I did not know that people were not, well, actually, first off, I didn't know that they were making a movie with The Rock about King Kamehameha, first off. Second off, no, I didn't know that there was a problem with that. Third off, I can sort of see why people would have a problem with that, but on the other hand, what's your suggestion? Who would be better? I mean, I'm not arguing like, no, it's got to be him, but I'm just very curious. Who did they have in mind? And Kenny, yeah, exactly. In reality, and this is true, too many people don't understand that it ain't the size of the dog in the fight that matters. What matters is the size of the fight in the dog. That is true. And let me tell you, if the dog has a little bit of crazy in his eye, watch out. Oh, yeah. Andre, Moana would be a fun movie, and I don't know if I can rent it, but if I can rent it, I might do that, and we should probably watch that movie. Yeah, Andre, exactly. Arnold was into bodybuilding in the 70s, and it was the Wild West when it came to steroids. Absolutely. And through the 80s, there was a little bit of an issue, and then through the 90s, there became awareness and anti-steroid campaigns, et cetera, et cetera. But still, 2021, whatever year it is, uh, he, I mean, steroids are still, or I don't know if they're technically steroids, human growth hormones, what, artificial stuff to help enhance your muscles that you shoot up, whatever they end up being, they're still a part of the scene. And, yeah, Tina Rose Cager, good to see you. And do you remember Jack LaLanne? Way ahead of his time, all natural lifestyle. Totally. And if you remember correctly, Jack LaLanne wasn't really, he was sort of built, I mean, not like a Polynesian per se, not quite as stout, but he wasn't a string bean. I mean, he had strength. He was kind of broad. And he certainly wouldn't, to by this days and by the standards that the media has for male beauty these days, his body type would not be considered something that was, he wouldn't be considered cut or swole or what the guys, all the young bucks go for. What they're striving for or what they think they're striving for. Really, Mitchie Mama, you think Tom Cruise is 5'9"? I don't. I think Tom Cruise is way shorter than that. I think his people might tell you that he's 5'9", but I don't think so. I feel like he is. Okay, well, obviously, I don't know what I'm talking about. So if somebody does know how tall Tom Cruise is, let's settle this once and for all between me and Mitchie Mama. I've got 25 cents saying that he's 5'5" or under, and she's got 25 cents saying he's maybe 5'9". Or maybe she doesn't. Oh, okay, 5'7". Okay, we'll split the difference. You said 5'9", I said 5'5". We'll split the difference. 5'7", let's go. Okay, that works. So he's just a little bit taller than me. Okay. Yeah, so let's see here. Mitchie Mama, he's 7 feet tall according to Google. I'm going to hope and assume that you're talking about Dwayne The Rock Johnson, not not Tom Cruise. That's funny. So you found out about the movie On the Road to Hana tour in August. Would that movie be the movie that Andre was talking about with the King Kamehameha movie? And I'm going to maybe assume there was some filming going on in that area, perhaps. So, you're talking about King Kamehameha was 7 feet tall, according to Google. No wonder it is said that King Kamehameha lifted the Naha stone in front of the State Library in Hilo. Exactly, yeah. That I was always under the impression that King Kamehameha was one very big guy, and and so consequently, you can't go, if Tom Cruise was 100% Polynesian at 5'7", I just don't think he'd be a believable King Kamehameha, right? And so my logic here with the whole, well, what's wrong with Rock? Because Rock is, I don't think Rock is 7 feet tall, obviously, but he's pretty tall. I think, isn't he? I really actually don't know. I never watched him in wrestling, so I don't know. Let's see here. Kenny from the Cove. Oh no. Tells Vanilla Coke Pepsi a little words of wisdom. In the 80s, I started a fight with a guy who was training to be a boxer. I was bigger and heavier than him. Unfortunately, he was better at boxing than I was at fighting. Yeah, those boxers, man, they really know how to cover, and they know how to jab, and they got that footwork that street fighters don't necessarily have. Yeah. So Poppy Shaney, okay, Tom Cruise is 5'5" at best. You saw him only 20 yards away at Santa Monica Airport. No way 5'7". See, that's what I think. I think his people want us to say his it's like, oh yeah, he's 5'7", and and guess what? Probably like in movies with his little lifts, he might be able to get to be 5'7", but I'll bet you in real life, yeah, I've heard that he is short, like really shorter than you would think, in comparison to how he looks on screen. Because I guess they, with the camera angles and things, you can make people look taller than they are. So Poppy Shaney, you're gonna bet a quarter on 5'5" as well. Fantastic. So then maybe he's a half inch shorter than me because I'm 5'5.5". Dang it. Because when you're 5'5", that half inch really counts. So there you go. Yeah, so medium 7-Up is telling Poppy Shaney to go argue with Google. There you go. There you go. Yeah, so, okay, right. Okay, so Poppy Shaney, Kelly McGillis in Top Gun had to slouch, wore flats, or no shoes in almost all the shots. She talks about it in a YouTube interview. That's exactly it. I've heard that's where I've heard he's so short is through scuttlebutt from his co-stars about how they, he is on, he not only does he wear lifts, like, sometimes they'll shoot him on boxes, so he looks taller, etc. Or in the case of Kelly, flats and slouching and this and that and the other thing. And that really sucks, frankly, that she had to be the one to slouch and I mean, to me, it's like, if Kelly McGillis can slouch enough in the shot to make herself shorter and the shot still doesn't look weird, then that means she's doing stuff out of shot, which then says to me, well, then they should have done something to Tom out of shot, because slouching, I mean, that's a physical contortion that can have long-lasting effects. Whereas if you give Tom Cruise some high heels, well, it's no big deal. He's just walking in platforms. That's not a long-term injury waiting to happen. Whereas the slouching or whatever, or another movie star who had long-term effects from one of their characters was Garth from Wayne and Garth, Dana Carvey, because Garth's character always, is kind of got his mouth is crooked. And from shooting the two movies so long, over and over, and all the hours that Dana Carvey spent in character, he actually had to have therapy, and he screwed his jaw big time. So that kind of thing has a lasting effect, and it kind of makes me angry that Kelly McGillis was the one made to contort, when to me it seems like an easier solution would have been just to give him some platform shoes, frankly. Rick, so am I saying that Tom Cruise is nobody to look up to? Well, you said it, not me. I'm not arguing, but you said it, not me. Andre, King Kamehameha's favorite wife was over 6 feet and weighed 300 pounds. Her name was Kahahumanu. Yeah, well, over 6 feet, at 300 pounds, she probably was just, muscular and svelte. I mean, because once you start adding height, then weight increases a lot. So over 6 feet, shoot, dude. She could probably help him lift that stone in Hilo. Nicole Kidman is a 6-footer. Wow. All right. Okay, then. I did not know that. I guess Tom likes his women tall. Well, I mean, I guess he didn't marry McGillis, but whatever. Okay, and Poppy Shaney. Yes, both Tom Cruise and Arnold were wearing lifts when you saw him and Flew him. Exactly. See, that's the whole thing. Sure, he's 5'7" in lifts is my best guess when it comes to Tom Cruise, which is why his people put out on his IMDb and in his, bio and his one sheet and his whatever they ness. I mean, I don't even know if Tom Cruise has a one sheet anymore, but yeah, that's what they want you to think. They want you to think that he's 5'7", and they want you to think that even though he's 60 years old, he can play a 30-year-old, which he cannot, by the way. But actors like to pretend, so there you go. Um, so yeah, you know, it's funny. Yeah, when people have a strong personality, you think that they are taller than they are. Well, some people, when they have a strong personality, think that they're taller than they are as well. Yeah, so there you go. So Pacola T, you've shrunk in old age from 4'10. As a teen, you were 4'11, and you were told as a teen, good things come in small packages. Still true today. Yeah, I used to be 5'6", and now I'm only 5'5.5". And I think they estimate you lose about a half an inch every 20 years. So, you know, that's why little old ladies even get littler. Mm-hmm. There we go. Okay, so Poppy Shaney tells me that Tom Cruise was shorter than his female flight instructor. So there you go. There you go. Darlene, her daughter, youngest daughter, is just shy like an inch of 10 feet. 10 feet. Boy, okay, let me make this clear. Darlene does not have a daughter that is almost 10 feet. That is not what she said at all. It's what I said. It's not what she said. What Darlene actually said was, my youngest daughter is just shy, like an inch, than 6 feet. So she's around 5'11". Darlene, my sister's about that height too. And my sister points and laughs at me all the time for being the shortest one in the family. She feels so bad for me being so short and so tiny. Whereas I look at her and I just think, I don't know if I'd want to be a woman that tall. But she loves being a woman that tall, and she wears high heels, which I think is super awesome. And Darlene, I hope your youngest daughter at just shy of 6 feet also wears high heels, because I'll tell you what, there's nothing worse than seeing a woman who's like super tall, trying to slouch her way into shortness. It's like, oh, honey, no, you are going to take command of the world, and you stand tall taking command of the world. In fact, not only should you stand tall, you go wear shoes to make you even taller. That's right. Make them look up to you. That's right. That's it. Yeah, Mitchie Mama, exactly. Tom Cruise is okay. So I said he was 60. He's not 60. He's 59. But either way, I'd be willing to bet that he still thinks he can play a 30-year-old. It's just like, leave that to the 45-year-olds, Tom, because you know that's how Hollywood works, right? So Tina Rose Cager, you're 5'4" and your daughter's 5'11". Yeah, you know, my mom was only 5'7", and you know, that's where I get my height or lack thereof. My sister, on the other hand, she definitely got the dad side height there. Okay, so Rick, you're saying this guy whose name I'm going to massacre. Giannis, hold on. Giannis Antetokounmpo. All right, so this guy, he's number 34 for the Milwaukee Bucks. Oh, I don't even know I don't even know where to begin with that name, dude. He is 6'11", and he apparently is someone to look up to. He's a good guy. He is a good guy. He's a power forward. And Darlene tells me, oh, good. She is not shy of nothing. She acts with confidence and dresses differently sometimes, but nice. Fantastic. And I don't know what you mean by dresses differently, but I have a feeling I'd like it. Oh, yes. Oh, yes. Andre, awesome. Yeah. So, so your boss is way tall and then she wears high heels. Exactly. I mean, seriously, way to intimidate some lesser confident men, right? I mean, whatever. Kenny, you did not just say that Tom Cruise is so small he could hang glide with a Dorito. You did not just say that, except for you did. That's funny. I've never heard that. And yeah, he sort of seems like it. So let's see here. Cindy Krause, you've got a couple girlfriends that are over 6 feet. You're a shrimp at 5'4". Yeah, Cindy, you and I are right around the same. Yeah, right around the same. So Michi Mama, at 12 years old, your niece was 5'8". Japanese too. 100% Japanese at 5'8". That's impressive. Wonder what her mom fed her. And then your son took to your side. Yeah. So it's tiny kind. Yep. There you go. So in high school, okay, so Poppy Shaney's saying that in high school he was 6 foot, but his girlfriend was 6'2", and didn't bother either her or you the least bit. That's see, that's fantastic. And in high school, honestly, that's really that's something to be said, because if a woman or a young woman is going to be intimidated or shy about her height at any time in her life, it's going to be junior high and high school. So I'm glad to know that your chick back in the day, she was over that real quick. Um, um, okay, so Poppy Shaney informs me that they call him the Greek Freak, and he's a great basketball player. I'm assuming he's referring to the Giannis Antetokounmpo that I was trying to say. At which point Rick was like, "I was just trying to get you to say his name, and he's laughing at me." Yeah, I'm thinking about making an emote, sort of like a Nelson from The Simpsons, the guy who's all ha ha. I'm thinking of doing one of those emotes, but sometimes ha ha it's so mean, like pointing and laughing, that's kind of mean. But seriously, sometimes I do stuff that deserves a pointing and laughing, and me saying that name, that deserved a ha ha emote if I've ever heard one. So let's see here. Andre, you're mad that you had a childhood friend that was very tall and had weight problems as well. I remember dancing with her, and she said, I'm only 6 feet tall. And wait, remember dancing with her, and she said, I am only 6 feet tall, and I was 6 feet, and I was looking into her bust, so I could not believe she was lying about her height. She died in surgery, getting her stomach stapled to lose weight. Such a loss. She had so much promise. Yeah, and that's exactly it. As a high school girl, that must have been very difficult for her. You're 6 feet. She's taller than you. She's lying about her height, and she's got size both up and out to, match. That's just, yeah, it's such a very, very difficult place to be in high school. But at the same time, though, you were dancing with her, which is super awesome. So, some folks like that would just hide at home. So it sounds like there's at least enough of a support system out there that she felt sort of comfortable with some folks like you. So yeah, you think in the early 80s, that's when they started the bovine growth hormone in milk. Rick, that is such a controversial topic, but quite honestly, I mean, I do have to wonder, hormones do have lasting effects and work in ways that are, there's unintended consequences when it comes to messing with hormones. So there you go. Darlene, I don't think I'm going to prell him, although you can. But, but I do think that, that my attempt at trying to say that name was truly a pointing and laughing. It was a situation worth a pointing and a laughing, and I wouldn't be offended if anyone pointed and laughed at what I just tried to say. Emphasis on tried, because we all know that did not happen. Yeah. Oh, Mitchie Mama, your ex's side of the family was tall people. He was 6 feet tall. You thought your son would be tall, but no. No. Yeah, I love it when Homer Simpson says "dope" to Poppy Shaney, and honestly, that might be an appropriate emote as well. That being said, with everything that I don't know what I'm talking about, my stream would probably just be filled with "dope, dope, 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 dope." So I don't know if I want to release a "dope" emote onto the world. So, you called the milk companies in Oahu because you weren't going to feed your son hormones he didn't need. I don't know. I'm assuming, I think you meant milk instead of mild. That's what I read it as, even though I did see that you wrote mild. I thought you meant milk companies. So, right. Okay, medium 7 Up. So, right. You're not going to be pointing and laughing because you can't say it yourself either. Exactly. Well, don't come to me for any tutoring. Oh, yeah. All right, guys. Well, hey, this was a little bit of a soapbox today, and I'm so glad that you guys that you guys were along for the ride. Andre, it was all Greek to you. Nice. That's good when I see what you did there. So yeah, it is 6:34. I started the stream about 4 minutes late, so I think it is time to wrap this up. And Rick is coming in with a self-prel, just working your self-prel, and you still can't say humu humu nuku nuku apua'a. Well, I can say that, but I can't say Giovanni Mamanalka Konfantovs, the Greek guy. Yeah, I can't say that. Yeah, and so that's right, Picola T. That's the best advice ever. Now that we've talked about starving and Homer Simpson, I think would approve of Ivar's clam chowder. So go get some Ivar's clam chowder and fill that belly because we don't want anybody to starve. That is right. Andre, thank you so much for the 200 biddies. Awesome. I love this little chat that we're having. So aloha to everyone, and I hope to see you guys next Wednesday. Who knows what we're going to be talking about? Maybe, just maybe, I'm not going to make any promises. Maybe I'll be able to say that name when we come back on Wednesday. I'll practice, I promise. All right, then. So we're going to wrap this up pretty soon. And I just want to thank you all for hanging out and enjoying the chat, as it were. I know I had a good time, even though we were talking about some creepy stuff for a minute. Yeah. And on that note, I guess we're going to say goodbye. But just remember, not many of us can look up to Tom Cruise unless he's wearing his lifts. All right, then. Take care, y'all. I'll see you soon.